This week Parashat Kedoshim Tihu, you should be holy for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's a very special parasha. Rashi says, this parasha was said, Kol Adat Ben Israel, to all of the assembly of Israel. Melamed Rashi says, Shem Ra Parasha, Zut HaChem, Nishro Kufei Torah K'tuvimba. It teaches that this parasha was said to the congregation of the Israel because Rov Gufei Torah K'tuvimba. The majority of the skeleton of Torah, Gufei Torah, the embodiment of Torah, depends on this parasha. That's the parasha that we're dealing with. Now, it's interesting if you notice, parasha Acharemot, last week parasha talks about the ladies that are not allowed to marry, marital relationship with relatives that's also, and the marital relationship that's mutar and also. And Torah says, numerate the numbers that that's also you are not allowed to marry them. Now, in this parasha Kedoshim start with the rules and regulation, how to deal with a lot of things. At the end of the parasha, again, Torah talks about marital relationship. Now, the difference is not repetition. Last week, parasha told you not to do. You're not allowed to marry this lady, that lady. In this parasha, at the end of the parasha, Torah tells us what's the punishment for it. Now, the obvious question is that usually Torah says don't do anything. So Torah doesn't give any punishment. And you're not allowed to punish somebody till you warn somebody not to do. And that's a very great point in Chilul. You're not allowed to punish your children as long as you didn't make a clear, direct order that they shouldn't do it. As long as they don't know you didn't do it, you're not allowed to punish them. Torah said, "En onshina lekel masvirim." We don't give punishment unless we warn that you shouldn't do it. Therefore, in Parashat Acharemot at the end, Torah says, don't marry. Here, at the end of the parasha, Torah says, what's the punishment for all of the ladies that people are not allowed to marry? Now, why Parashat Kedoshim is in between? Why say that Torah says all of these Parashat Kedoshim, you should be Kadosh, Rashi says Kedoshim in Arayot, you should fear your father and mother, should keep Shabbat, and Torah says don't lie, don't swear falsely, don't curse, don't be crooked in judgment. Torah says don't say lashon hara, don't hate your friend, rebuke your friend, and don't take revenge, don't bear grudge. All of these things were said, and at the end of everything that was said, Torah says the punishment for the marital relationship. Now, usually the punishment is right away after warning. And here, Torah says the punishment after. Why is it like that? Because what's the purpose of the punishment? The purpose of the punishment is prevention. The purpose of punishment is not to be given. Like the Gemara says, the bedding that kills two people in 70 years is called bedding of Katlanit. The bedding murderer, because they shouldn't kill. Why shouldn't kill? Torah says to kill. No, Torah says to kill. The punishment is not to be given. The punishment is prevention. If a child comes and tells the Abba, my father, my dear daughter, slap on my face, I want to do this thing that you said you shouldn't do. You should know you fell in Chilul. Chilul is not that the child says, okay, punish me, I want to do it. The purpose of the punishment is prevention. You have to exercise the punishment in a way that the child will stop doing it. But if the child does it and gets the punishment, then you fail. But you don't want to punish your child. Then you have to implement in a way to be prevention. Now, unbelievable point Torah is telling us. Torah is telling us in Arayot, if you want to stop Arayot, it's not just telling you the punishment you stop Arayot. Torah is telling us don't marry these ladies. All of the ladies are also to be with. Then Torah tells us the way to prevent that is Kedoshim to you. You have to be a different person. Altogether different person. You have to have Kadosh, you have to be Kadosh, you have to live the life of Kedusha, you have to not to lie, you have to be dealing with your friends right way. Don't take any revenge, don't bear a grudge, don't They will pay somebody that you have to pay, don't gossip. All of these things makes a person that this person would not be somebody famous in Arayot. The way to deal with the Avera of Arayot, marital relationship, so much attraction. It says, majority with Arayot, majority of the people they're gonna fall in Arayot, so attractive, it's so appealing that just knowing the punishment is not enough. You have to work on a person. Person totally has to be a different person. And you see from Torah. Torah says, Yosef, when Eshet Potiphar came to Yosef, Yosef said, your master gave everything to me. How could I do avla? How could I do wrong thing to your master? My master, and Chatati Elokim. First he said, how could I do something wrong to my master? I have to have sense of gratitude toward my master, what he did to me. And then he says, Chatati Elokim. Hashem said, what's going on? You should say Chatati Elokim first, and then tell about the master. How could I do something wrong to master? Because the yesod of arayot is you have to be a match. If you do business properly, if you deal with other people nice, if Torah says don't lie, once you make such a embodiment in yourself, then you could prevent arayot. If you just know somebody, I want him not to be Mekadesh Shabbat, I tell him, absolutely Mekadesh Shabbat. That prevents him. That understands the heaviness of it. You tell somebody, these ladies are also, this is also, it doesn't work. Torah is telling us. The Torah puts the parasha of Kedoshim, go, Ufei Torah Teluyim Ba. Torah is teaching us, if a person wants to stay away, a person has to be honest in his business, has to be honest with himself, has to, otherwise, a person could be somebody learning Torah and, great rabbi and fail in these things. Why? Because he is missing of sheker, love of sheker. He's missing of how to treat the friends, how to pay payment. Once you are sensitive toward all of these things, Kedoshim to you, then you become a strong embodiment that you could prevent that. That's why Torah is saying that Kedoshim to you, between the love and the best prevention is person has to work on himself. A lot of times we hear a lot of stories that person get rid of arayot because he wanted to be honest, because he wanted to show Hakadosh Torah. In other words, the person gets temptation, nothing could stop him. Gehinnom, Haba, all of this thing doesn't work. But humanity works. The person is very integral to humanity. Once we promote that within ourselves, that's the greatest power to help us to prevent these things. That's why you find in Torah that Parshat Kedoshim is between the loving, Torah says don't do, and the punishment. Because this is the way to prevent the things and to absorb the Kedusha.